Coming up next on the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast.
Gotta bring the hammer down. Go look up how much minimum OSHA fines are for this type of thing. I mean, we are talking thousands and thousands of dollars.
From your first dollar to your first million, welcome to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast, presented by ZenMaid. Join your host, Stephanie Pipkin, founder of Serene Clean, as she shares proven tips, tricks, and hard-earned lessons. Whether you're just starting out or ready to scale, get ready to discover how to build your own cleaning empire. Let's roll up our sleeves and dive in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Filthy Rich Cleaners. I'm your host, Stephanie Pipkin, and in this little episode that is off the cuff, but I want to share with you, is owning a cleaning business or any business at all means you need to be on the defense because things are going to be attacking you from every which way and trying to destroy your business, greatly affect it negatively, take your money in all sorts of ways. And the reason this is top of mind is I found that this week Serene Clean's getting taken to court. And we're going to win. But I wanted to share it with you. I'm not even going to hire a lawyer. That's how confident I am. So I will share this with you guys because it could be something that you are doing or have done in your business that 100% is putting you at risk of being taken to court and potentially be breaking the law when it comes to discrimination. And you may be wondering, Stephanie, what are you talking about? How could this be? Well, I'll share this with you guys as well as a couple other examples that I see or that my business has done where we have put ourselves at risk. And a lot of it has to do with us thinking that us not knowing or being ignorant because we're a small business owner means that anybody cares because OSHA doesn't care. The law doesn't care that you're a small business owner. It is your responsibility as soon as you open a business to start becoming familiar and making sure that you are not inadvertently breaking the rules and laws that govern us as business owners, and especially when it comes to things like employees, insurance, all of that stuff. So I'll give you a couple examples and then I'm going to get to us going to court and what that's about. So number one I want to talk about is definitely insurance and not being properly insured or making sure that if you use independent contractors that they have insurance or that your staff members have insurance. Something that I did not do in the beginning, which we now absolutely do, is make sure we get a copy of our employees' vehicle insurance because we require our staff members to have their own reliable vehicle for work. We don't have a fleet of cars, and a lot of you guys do this. And previously, when I first started out, I just assumed when they said, yes, I have car insurance, that they weren't lying. And shame on Stephanie for her ignorance because employees do be lying sometimes. And sometimes they just don't even know that their insurance is out because they're scatterbrained or their lives are a mess. So that is no reason though for it to negatively affect your business because if they don't have car insurance, that just makes it a lot harder if and when they get into an accident on company time in their own vehicles, because I've had that happen before. And when it's in their own vehicles, but they're driving for work purposes, then your insurance companies kind of like duke it out, like their car insurance versus your insurance. And at least you have the option and you may at least win there. And then just from a liability perspective, making sure that they have insurance if they hurt somebody else in an accident. Like it's just an important thing. So make sure you're getting a copy of their work insurance or their car insurance when you hire them on, just like you would get information like their I-9 stuff where you get a copy of their, passport or birth certificate or whatever it is that they ask on that. Just covering your bases when it comes to that. And just being properly insured in general. Make sure that over time as you grow that you have an actual insurance professional look at your coverage and make sure that there's no gaps. In the beginning, I think the first year we went through Next Insurance, which was fine. It was great. It was like $42 a month. But then as we grew, I was like, ooh, I think I want to have a local insurance provider so that I had somebody like an agent that I could talk to and ask questions. And you were wonderful, Veronica, but she no longer works at that company. But she looked at our policy and we had a bunch of gaps. And she was like, oh, if this happens at a place, you're not covered. If this happens, the wording overall, because I was not an insurance professional, obviously, clearly, look at me. Do I look like I know anything about insurance? No. So I didn't know what was missing, because insurance companies, as many of us know, like to write things in a way that benefit the insurance company, not the person who's paying for the insurance. And so if you don't know, or you're not an expert on reading this stuff, you may not realize some of the gaps in coverage that you have. So it does not hurt you to go to several insurance agencies and be like, here's the coverage I have. This is the business I have. This is the type of cleaning services that we provide, et cetera, and ask, what gaps do I have based on what kind of services we provide, based on the fact that we are going into people's businesses and homes. What do I have for gaps? And at least you can be cognizant of that and budget in for that. And this is why it's so important to charge enough, guys, because insurance is super duper expensive. It's one of our biggest expenses, actually, every single year, is being properly insured, both from a workers' comp side of it and then a general liability perspective. And this is one of the reasons we don't do certain types of work. We don't do high up ladder work, or any type of specialized chemicals that could be more dangerous, just to keep our insurance rates down. So that does affect the type of things that we can do. We can't climb on ladders, blah, blah, blah. But the way I see it, I'd rather just keep that risk low, keep our insurance rates low, and also not put my staff at risk of falling off a ladder and hurting themselves. So keep that in mind when you're making decisions on what kind of services you want to provide. Will determine what level of insurance that you need, what kind of rates you're going to be looking at. So that is one thing. Secondarily, worker comp audits can be a bitch, frankly, and you may not realize that every year you are going to be getting audited and making sure that you paid enough in, because workers' comp is based off of your payroll. All right. So what that means is after every single year, or every I guess a policy year, if you will. So I think ours is April to April. Maybe that's everybody's. I don't know. That's ours. And so every single April we get audited based on the previous year's payroll actual numbers, because truly we're just guessing. We don't know what next year's payroll is going to be. So it's going off of a guesstimate, and then it audits off of your actual numbers as well as your actual claims that you had. And so almost always you're going to have to pay in more. So you may not be prepared or realize that this is going to be coming at you when you add employees. You're like, I'm already paying my premium. Like, what do you mean I'm going to owe even more? Insurance sucks, guys. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. It sucks having to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars into insurance over the lifetime of our business, if not millions, depending on the size that you get. But when something happens, you're going to be darn happy that you have it, because we've had multiple instances where I'm like, oh, thank God we were properly insured, because that would have destroyed us. That would have bankrupted us, depending on what it is. So it is a necessary evil, is insurance, obviously. And I'll leave it on that, because insurance is highly volatile right now, if you guys pay attention to the news. But luckily that's health insurance, not workers' comp insurance for small businesses. So yes, just being properly insured, making sure you're covered there, and then making sure your staff have the insurance that they need as well. The second thing that I'm going to mention before I talk about us going to court is going to be making sure that you are OSHA compliant. I know I've mentioned it before, but this week alone, we have been just wanting to shake our cleaners, because I don't know how many times we need to tell them, do not use any product that the client asks you to use without explicitly sending it to us for our approval. Yet again, another cleaner offhand mentioned like, oh, I use this at this person's house. Maybe I can use it at this. And we're like, WTF? Like, what? You're using that? Like, it's just like, how many times do I have to tell you guys, we can't do that. We're immediately OSHA not compliant when you do that. We need to have the safety data sheet on hand. So SDS sheets, safety data sheets, you need to have on hand for every single product that your staff member is going to potentially be using. And that needs to be readily available. That can be in digital form. So what that can look like practically, make sure that every product you use, just Google safety data sheet for Windex or whatever it is that you're using. We don't use Windex, vinegar and water. That's great glass cleaner. But if we were to say use Windex, we would have to have the sheet. We'd have it downloaded. We'd have it in a binder in the office. But obviously that doesn't help a cleaner in the field if they were to get Windex in their eye. We have it uploaded to a drive folder. We also have it available in our our group on Facebook that we have for our staff members, or however you do it. If you're at Slack, that's what we're about to transition to. We'll have a channel of the SDS sheets just so that they can get to what they need to get to very quickly if something were to happen. And I don't know if you know how much an OSHA fine is. like, if you want to scare yourself into this and whip yourself into shape on this, like Katie, my manager, and I were just talking about this yesterday when we were expressing our frustration to each other that this keeps happening, and that we are now going to start docking their raise potential every time they violate this, because it's so absolutely risky. Like it's a big deal, and they know they're not supposed to be doing it, and they keep doing it, and it's really frustrating. So got to bring the hammer down a little bit more than I usually do about this particular topic, because Google it, guys. Go look up how much minimum OSHA fines are for this type of thing. I mean, we are talking thousands and thousands of dollars. I think like $13,000 we had looked up or asked ChatGPT about like what the typical ones are for this type of thing. It can be even more than that, guys. It can be absolutely, think about it, you as a small business, if you got smacked by like a $20,000 fine, like what that would do to you. So please, this one in particular, make sure that you got your SDS sheets, make sure your cleaners know to not use anything from anywhere except what you provide because of this. And it's for their own safety. It's for mitigating the risk, and you want to be OSHA compliant. And if you're using independent contractors, making sure that they maintain their SDS sheets as well, because, that is part of the requirement. If they're going to be their own business, they need to do that for you. And I would even ask just for a copy too, if for some reason you're having your employees and ICs kind of commingle at job sites potentially, just to cover all of your bases, just in case. You never know. So that's a big one. And then secondary labels for spray bottles. And that means if you're going to dump like a product from like a gallon jug into a secondary spray bottle, you need to have that properly labeled as to what that is. Cause it's like, is that bleach? Is it water? We don't know. And that can cause issues. So that is actually something that we got dinged on and we got a warning about from OSHA a couple of years ago. And I think maybe it was, and it had to do with SDS sheets. We were not properly detailed for that. So luckily we just got a warning, and we had 48 hours to fix it all and provide proof that we fixed it. But a second ding on that same topic, I don't think would be so lucky. So that's why I'm so psychotic about this, and you need to be just as psychotic because of how costly this could be. So please get those on file, guys. Do that today. Do that as soon as you get back to the office. It's so easy. It's literally on the internet. It is free. It will take you 20 minutes at most to do this and to cover your ass, because this could be a big deal for you. And then finally, why is Serene Clean getting taken to court? So, this one really grinds my gears. Okay, so what some of you may or may not know is that when it comes to discrimination laws, you cannot have anything in your job listings that say that felons cannot apply or will not be hired for your job. That is discriminating. At least in Wisconsin, check your state, check your country, check your region to see what the laws are there. But at least for us, this is against the law. And okay, cool. We don't put anything in our job listings about, felons need not apply or no felonies or whatever. You can certainly put background check, background checks will happen. But you cannot put in that. So if any of you right now have in your job listings that, no felonies, no marijuana charges or whatever, please go get that. No, take it down. Take it down right now. Redo it. Get that out of there. And you're like, but Stephanie, if you don't have that, what's the problem? I'll tell you. There is a gentleman, Richie Levine. Richie Levine, if you want to Google him, he has a whole book on how to come after businesses who do this. Richie Levine is in New York, and he has never applied to a job at Serene Clean. But Richie Levine is suing Serene Clean for discriminatory practices against those with felonies. And he does this dozens of times a year. He goes after businesses all over the country. He went over after my own parents' company, actually. So that's how I knew this guy. Once you start Googling him, you're like, oh, okay, he does this for a living and he teaches others to do it too. But the thing is, if you're breaking the law on this, he has the right to do it. It's just really effing annoying. And so that's why I'm trying to tell you guys, do not put anything about no felonies, no XYZ, nothing like that, because that is discrimination and you cannot do that. And Serene Clean has convicted felons on my staff. I have hired felons, guys, and they're some of the best staff members I've ever had. All right. So truly, like, depending on what they're going to be doing or whatever, and what the felony is for, like, you can obviously like consider, like, are we talking about like theft and in houses, and they, they're like have a string of robberies, right? Like you can consider what that is. And as long as you can explain based on the specific job requirements and, the types of crimes and things like that. But yeah, I've got people, I've got like 6 or 7 right now that have records actually, and they're fabulous people. So, I do not see that as a reason to not hire somebody. And I would never put that in a job listing, especially considering what we can do and depending on what it is that the actual charges were. So I literally have definitive proof that I do not discriminate against felons. This is where this comes in. You guys have heard me mention our largest commercial account, which is a government research facility for natural resources here in Western Wisconsin. And we have been cleaning that place for a year. This government facility has the most stringent background checks I have ever seen. They take months and months and months. And it is a requirement from that facility that there cannot be any felonies and that there cannot be any drug charges, even marijuana, because pot is not legal in Wisconsin yet. So maybe that'll change. But as of this moment, it is not legal. And so that means that it is the requirement of the facility that us as the subcontractor has staff members who can pass that background check and like fit their requirements, not Serene Clean's requirements, this facility's requirements. So we even asked our contracting agent, how do we list this specifically? Because we've never done anything like this. We've never hired and specified for this before. And so she gave us the exact verbiage. And so we specified that this is a government facility. Their background checks mean like they will not accept anyone with a felony you won't pass or with marijuana charges. And so it was highly specific to this facility based on their requirements, not us. And this is what this guy found, and he just looks, I don't know what he does. He even has a way to filter if you've taken it down or changed the verbiage. I don't know if he has some type of software so that even if you change it to be correct, like he'll still find it after the fact and to show that you were like discriminating. So for us, I am very confident. I called our state, the Department of Workforce Development, and I talked to multiple people there. I talked to an investigator, and he's like, go to my pre-hearing conferences in March. And he's like, you will have to go to court for this. And I described exactly what it was. And he was like, as long as you have the proof, that this is a requirement of the facility, if you have any email chains or anything in writing, et cetera, he's like, I'm not going to guarantee this, but you should be good. And I mentioned, I was like, we have felons on our staff. He's like, that works in your favor too, to show that you don't discriminate against felons and that this was facility specific. So even though we are we are in the clear, I am confident that we are good. And that's why I'm not going to be hiring a lawyer for this, because I'm so confident that we are good. And maybe the guy doesn't even show up to the pre-hearing conference. But how frustrating, right? Where it's just like, I know we're not discriminating. I know we're not breaking the law here. And I'm still having to go through this. And it's very stressful, and just making sure like we have all of our ducks in a row. And so all of this to say, guys, like, if you didn't know that this was against the law, it is. And I want to make sure that my friends listening here do not get burned down the road, and that ignorance is not an excuse. Just because you don't know something and you do something wrong doesn't mean it's not wrong, especially when we're business owners. It's our job to learn. It's just like, bookkeeping and like passing that off to somebody, and then they steal money and they embezzle from you because you don't know how to check your own books. You don't know how to double check and pop in and see if everything makes sense. You're totally ignorant to the finances of your business. And there's so many, instances of this happening where we kind of just slough off the responsibility and say, well, I don't know. Like I outsource this. It's your name, guys. It's your business. All right. It is our responsibility to learn and do better. And that's why I'm trying to put this podcast out there, so that you guys can learn from my experiences here and go fix these things ASAP if you are doing them. Most likely somebody listening is doing one thing illegal right now. All right. And you don't even know it, because it's impossible to keep up with all the laws. But that's why being involved in the communities, exposing yourself to outside sources and not just being in your little bubble and having your nose to the ground and not paying attention to anything around you. It's just like when the non-compete thing went through like last year of like non-competes are no longer allowed in our area. Like if then you tried to do that, you'd be, going against the rules. So you got to stay up to date in our community. Make sure you're still in the groups. Make sure, you're online and following anything that has to do with being a small business owner. And this can help you so that when things happen and maybe there's a grant available, maybe during COVID with the PPP, like I was like on it because I was paying attention and listening. And so it's super important to make sure that you have your eyes up and not just, sticking your head in the sand about stuff, guys, because it's going to come down on you. It's going to come down on you hard. And I do not want that to happen. So please get this stuff in order ASAP. And I wanted to share this while it's fresh in my mind. I mean, this literally happened this week and I haven't had like I said, March will be the pre-hearing conference and I'll share my experience with that too and see if I can just talk the judge in that moment out of doing the hearing. Hopefully the guy doesn't even show up, but I'm going to be prepared for the absolute maximum amount of scrutiny on this situation. And I'm going to be fully prepared documentation wise to prove that we are on the right side of things. But just wanted to share, again, I know it's not sexy talking about risk mitigation. Woo, that is not a sexy topic, but it is the one that you need to think about as a business owner. And it's not all about making that coin. It's about covering your ass too, so that you can protect that coin. So I hope this was helpful, guys. Let me know in the comments, are you covered in all of these areas? If you're not, what are you going to go do right now? What are you going to go fix? And tell me so I can pat you on the back. And then I'll yell at you if you don't do it and you say you're going to do it, because that's what I'm here for, is to give you guys a gentle little tap in the right direction. Sometimes not so gentle. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, guys. I'll see you on the next episode of Filthy Rich Cleaners. I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.